following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode here at the Dale Jr. Download. It's Tuesday. It's time for some dirty air here in the Bojangles studio. We got a great week of content, but here on Dirty Air, we're going to talk about Bristol, and Denny Hamlin, race winner, is going to call in. It's been a few hours. Have the teams figured out anything from this race weekend where we saw so much tire wear? Quick thank you to today's Dirty Air sponsor. That's Tire Pros. Just the other day, I saw one of their mobile vans at the race shop helping a teammate get their tire changed. Wow. Boy, I could have used that. I didn't know they had that. What convenience. That's unmatched in today's world. Find a van near you at TirePros.com. Man, if you have that flat tire on the highway, that is what you need. All right, man, so it was an awesome race this past weekend. I think the Jeff Gluck poll was 88%. So feel pretty good about that. I was thinking it would be 50-50. We were about 150, 200 laps into the race. A lot of people were being negative Nancy's about the race so far. But I was apprehensive on bashing it and thinking, man, this could actually turn out to be pretty good. I liked seeing the guys on the track thrown for a loop. Everybody was scrambling, trying to figure out what was the best approach and how to handle this. And I had seen this many, many times at local short tracks around the Southeast where drivers, due to the abrasive nature of the racetrack, which the brushed concrete at Bristol is very abrasive, due to the gumball tires that we run on the short tracks, you got to be careful. You can go up there, take the lead, run up front all you want, but you might not be there at the end. Somebody's going to be saving and being smart back in the race, is going to drive through the field and take the victory away. We see it all the time, and I love that chess match. I love that unknown, like who's really saving, who's not saving, who's saving enough. We had that multiple times throughout the day. Every run throughout the day was a challenge for the drivers to try to figure out how to get their tires to last the most. And so, short track racing, I don't know about everybody else, but I have fallen into this routine of having a very short-term memory. Something in the sport can happen that will completely make me forget what the challenges were leading up to that or what we've dealt with in the past. And so I have to remind myself, like, short track racing was in jeopardy. Now, I don't want to be gloom and doom, but, short track racing has always been such an incredible staple and a big part of our sport. Back in the 50s and 60s when NASCAR was kind of getting itself off the ground, every race was a short track except for Daytona and Darlington, Atlanta, and then Charlotte comes along. Otherwise, everywhere they went was a half-mile dirt or asphalt racetrack. I mean, short track racing is our roots. And so it's in trouble. It's been in trouble, especially with the next-gen car. But before the next-gen car, we're losing short tracks. We'd lose a short track on the schedule so often that some of our industry insiders are calling places like New Hampshire and Phoenix short tracks now, which is ridiculous. We're so starved for short tracks, we're just changing what a short track is. But we've needed to figure out how to get the next-gen car to be more exciting on those type of racetracks at Bristol, at Richmond, at Martinsville. And so, hallelujah. What a happy accident. We show up, they're talking about tire wear in practice. They thought it would get better. Usually it does. We show up to places that are abrasive on a test, like Darlington, and you'll go out and you'll run 20 laps and wear a tire completely out. But as you put more rubber down on the racetrack, that's going to improve throughout the test. And when race weekend comes, the tire is going to be fine. And that's what we anticipated happening at Bristol. But as I noted on social media, after about 100 laps, man, that racetrack was not taking any rubber at all. All that rubber was not getting put down on the racetrack, it was just forming up in this sort of very dry, shredded, like beef jerky mess that was just getting thrown up into that top groove. And so, they've changed a lot of things about how they make these tires. They've taken a lot of chemicals out. Tires gotten greener over the years. And now, when the tire does shred debris, that debris used to be tacky. You could, you'd be balls on the racetrack, and it would collect in the race cars, and you could grab it with your hand, and it would leave a black goo on your hands. Like if you touched it, it came off and onto you, right? Well, this stuff that we had Sunday up on top of the racetrack was just like dry, shredded, tire. It was very, very interesting that the tire wasn't tacky, and maybe that was a temperature situation. Maybe that's temperature related. Couldn't really get a ton of heat in this tire, and it just shredded off, because that, brushed concrete is like a cheese grater. But anyhow, that I knew as soon as we weren't laying rubber down on the track and that tire wear was not going to improve. We were going to have this tire wear issue all the way to the end of the race. So now the drivers have to slow down, chill out, try to save what they could. And we all watched that happen. We watched the drivers adapt. We watched the crew chiefs and the teams adapt, and everybody start to put a plan in place to get their driver to the finish line, and they did. It didn't fall apart. We didn't self-destruct. NASCAR didn't have to step in and throw competition yellows like we were having, happen in some of these situations in the past. Goodyear did freak out mid-race, go into PR mode. Unnecessary, necessary, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I were them, but I know they were concerned. There's a race going on. I think they could have held that PR mess off until the end and decided whether it was necessary or not at that point. But in the middle of a race, man, don't be distracting me with this. I want to see what's happening on the racetrack. So, anyways, I want to applaud Goodyear. They have been very conservative over the years on doing anything with their tires. If you're making tires, all right, you out there, you own the tire company that makes the tires for the racing, okay? And you're also trying to sell tires to consumers out on the highway. So the racing tires that you're going to make, you want them to look great. You want them to be durable. You want them to, create a great reputation for your company. So you're not going to make a tire that isn't trustworthy, isn't good, is going to fall apart, it's going to shred, blow out. You're not going to make those tires, even if they ask you to, even if competitors and race car drivers want it. They're not going to. You're going to be able to make a tire that is safe and durable just like you're trying to sell on the highway. And so I applaud Goodyear for being aggressive. That's hard for them to do because they could get negative publicity. The drivers could get out and complain. Fans could be frustrated, and we've seen that in the past. One driver who's very happy about this is Denny Hamlin. Denny won the race this past weekend. He's going to be able to answer a lot of the questions that we have today, so let's bring him on in. All right, man, you've had a couple days to process everything. Appreciate you going home and knocking out Actions Detrimental. I'll listen to the show. It was a great show. Sometimes a guy comes off a win, especially, it was midnight when you recorded that. I didn't know if you'd have any real deep dive information because, shoot, man, your adrenaline and your excitement over winning the race kind of overrides everything in that moment. But you gave some great insight on everything that went down and what the drivers had to deal with. Like I said, you had a couple days to think about it. And what do you think you've learned? What do the teams learn from what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think the teams are, have a lot of the same questions that they had over the weekend. But, I mean, just trying to draw some conclusions on, what it might have been, right? I think that certainly the easiest one was to say that, there's something going on with the tire itself that is different. The only counter to that is that actually many of our Toyota cars ran the old tire from the fall, and it did the same thing. So,
wow.
The thing is with the tire is that it's got oils in it, right?
Yes.
It is a partial green tire. And so any kind of oil has some sort of viscosity to it. And there's something and this is for the length of time, ever since 20 years ago, Martinsville always had to be a certain temperature to actually start laying rubber. I think that there was a decent amount of track temp difference this weekend from what we've had, because we've been racing in the fall. It's always been warmer for the last 4 years. We haven't been at Bristol in the spring in a long time. So I think I'm truly a believer now in the fact that the track temp played a bigger role than anything. So they could go test next week, and if it's 70 degrees outside, they're still not going to find out what it was. So I think that it's just one of those, perfect storms for them that just kind of all lined up and ended up giving us what was a great race.
I agree. So I agree that there's a lot of variables there that you can't repeat. How do you, and I know the drivers all communicate, you all try to have a like-minded opinion and voice going forward, so that just a lot of, when the drivers want to collaborate and be involved in things, you want to try to kind of have a streamlined opinion. How do you guys keep Goodyear? How do you keep Goodyear from overcorrecting? How do you communicate with Goodyear? Have you even started those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm sure some drivers have. For sure, I haven't yet. It was great to hear kind of Goodyear come out on Sirius yesterday and say, be pretty positive about it. I'm glad that they've taken that approach. And so certainly, we would all like to know what it is. That way we can implement this on other tires. Now, do we want all this in 1.5 miles and stuff like that? No, probably not. But I think this really could be a big benefit to the short tracks. And so we're going to definitely try to keep them positive, keep them aggressive. The teams itself, they know they could, JGR feels, hey, we can go get another 20 laps out of this if we went tomorrow. So there's clearly differences in the cars that we could do as well to help them out.
Yeah, I had that argument yesterday with the guys at Door Bumper Clear. I agree with you, man. I think if the teams, realize things are going to be that severe, they would definitely take the opportunity, if given, to make adjustments that could improve the durability of the tire, or just how hard the car is on the tire, cambers, things like that. Good to hear that your guys feel confident they can make that tire run longer. Have y'all if you go to Richmond, right? I don't think that you have this kind of same scenario, because, and I'd like to hear your opinion, the concrete at Bristol and at Martinsville, it's brushed concrete. It's not like smooth. It's brushed, and so it's got a bit of a texture to it that's kind of abrasive and difficult. Whereas a Richmond, I think you could take a tire like this and not have, even if it doesn't lay rubber, I don't think you have the wear issues that you have at a place like Bristol.
Yeah, you're not gonna, for sure. I mean, again, this could never happen again. There's a strong possibility of that. This is just a one-off, and what I think the side result could be is that Goodyear could get more aggressive when they're developing new tires, right? I mean, that's what we hope, is that they're not afraid to see cords at the end of a fuel run when they go tire testing. Like, usually they see one little band of cord and no, we're going to go to a little harder compound. Yeah. And that's with only just a few cars on the racetrack. So I think that we've always been quick to react. Chase Elliott mentioned that. You mentioned that yesterday. So hopefully we don't overreact, and actually we go the other way on some of these tracks that we know historically has had very minimal tire wear.
Yeah. So that, I think the key part, there's a lot to this, but driver opinions. I was really careful to listen to the drivers when they got out of the car, how they commented about the tire. Where, I think, if you go back 15, 20 years ago, myself even included, man, we would get out and we would hammer Goodyear. If our car didn't drive right, if it didn't feel good, I'd talk about having basketballs at Dover and hockey pucks at Bristol, and Tony Stewart would get out and just hammer these guys, just brutal comments. And so I was, thinking, gosh, I hope nobody does that. I think that they didn't, right? Everybody got out and said, hey, man, this might be a little extreme, but we like it. We want this. We can make adjustments, but we really liked what we saw. even drivers that didn't have great days got out and were very, very kind of measured in their opinion. I think that goes back to the driver text, right? The group conversations that y'all have where you guys go, hey, man, they're going to try to get aggressive. Goodyear's going to get aggressive. Let's not hammer them. If it doesn't go like we think, is that true? Are y'all having those conversations where you guys are trying to, help Goodyear along here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all try to get on the same page the best we can, right? We've got Jeff Burton there to try to kind of moderate that at times and kind of be our singular voice, because you try to get us all in the room. Everyone's going to have a different opinion. I thought overall the consensus is that this is what we asked for, and it was okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, the one thing you never heard about this weekend was, hey, we need more horsepower with this, or we needed, we couldn't pass, or aerodynamics. Like, that was a non-factor. If you wanted to drive to the front this week, you absolutely could. And some people, that was the approach they took. They said, I'm just going to drive hard and see what happens.
Yeah.
And others were more calculated. And so that's why you saw so many lead changes, is that others, who were in the lead chose not to fight for that lead. They said, okay, you go ahead, right? It was very much like a horse race where, hey, a guy jumps out, he's probably not going to have enough stamina to make it to the finish. So it was a chess match at 120 miles an hour at Bristol.
Yeah.
Me and Kyle Larson were beside each other for the lead, and we both started slowing down, not wanting to take the lead, and almost coming up with a, hey, let's just slow everybody down here. Let's keep the front. And so it was definitely a fun race from that instance. And I understand everyone will have a different opinion. If you ask the Penske guys, they're probably going to be the most negative about it. History shows, for whatever reason, the Penske cars wear out tires. This has been for decades now. So they're really hard on tires, where, historic organizations like JGR is better on tires. So it just is, it's ebbs and flows, but it shows that definitely cars make a difference in how you treat them.
So one of the things that I get asked a lot, or throughout my whole career, have you ever peed in a race car? Apparently, this is something that you are now doing. At least you've talked about it twice in the past 6 months. And we get that question from time to time, but it's fun to answer. For me, it probably happened a half a dozen times in my career. There's just times when it just is you can't hold it. It's too much, and you got too much race left. Am I to believe that just 6 months ago, that was the first time in your entire career you've ever done that?
Yeah, it was Atlanta.
How did you go your entire career without ever, lap 50 having a full bladder?
I don't know. I just the bladder was bigger, I guess, and it shrunk over time. I just don't know what exactly it is.
You're getting old, not able to hold it as much.
But for me, I like it now because it keeps me drinking. Like, when I get so full before and I was not able to go, I'd have to stop drinking in the car. And so I wasn't hydrating myself because I was in such pain. And so now that I'm able to let it go, I'm able to keep hydrating throughout the entire race. So I love it now. So
when you take a pee in the car, what lap in the race was this week?
I was under caution, probably the end of second stage.
Okay, so you not too late. Yeah. Do you tell the interior guy? Do you let the guys know right away?
No, I told him this weekend when we got out in Victory Lane, and he's like, "Damn it!" He's like, "I gotta watch that thing again."
Hey, so you got a white suit.
I do.
Yeah. So when I had a white suit, one time. I used to have a white suit, so if I ever peed in the car, I'd get them to bring me a Gatorade or any kind of a colored drink so I could pour that on me before I'd get out so nobody could see my yellow piss stains all over my suit. Oh, man.
Well, trust me, there's many text conversations between myself and JGR says, stop with the white suits.
That is trouble, man. You're gonna have to figure out how to get some Gatorade, and you got to make it. You get the yellow Gatorade and you blend it in.
That's a better move right there.
That's right. All right, man. Hey, thanks for calling in today. Know you're busy all week. Good luck in COTA. Enjoy those track limits, and you'll be missing the short track racing that you did this past weekend, I'm sure, on Sunday. But have fun, man. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. That brought back a lot of memories. All the
yellow Gatorade
times that, you know, you're like embarrassed. You can't hold it. I mean, you're racing along. You're like, it's distracting. So you got to get rid of the distraction, and you're uncomfortable. But you can't do it during green flag. You have to kind of wait for a yellow to focus on it happening. Yeah. So you
takes
know,
a lot of focus.
Yellow
to do
comes
that.
out, and you're like, because I don't know what it is about your
the
body.
yellow comes out and the yellow comes out.
Yeah,
you're
yellow
full
comes
yellow
out and the
mode.
yellow comes out, and you're in full yellow mode. There's a lot there. A lot of puns. But yeah, I would get done and I'd go, hey, bring me a yellow Gatorade before I get, I really am thirsty. Yeah. And so I'd pour that yellow Gatorade on my suit to sort of blend it in so I didn't hop out and just like, oh, Grandpa peed on himself. You know what I mean? So, but I did, when I had this happen, I felt so bad about it because it is nasty, right? The interior guy has to clean this up. Monday, whenever the car's going to come back, they take the inserts out. They do all this. They wash these cars. So I know they're going to deep dive into this interior. And so I'm not going to make this a surprise. They're going to smell it immediately. But I always had a hard time breaking the news to my interior guy, Adam. But I know that we have Denny's interior guy's phone number.
We do.
Should we give him a call? Ask him how this experience is going for him? All right, so we got on the line here Denny's interior guy. Denny's interior guy, how you doing?
I'm not very good, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? So, Denny, I assume you're a little fed up with this new trend of Denny peeing in his car that he started this year.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't what I signed up for. You know, I don't clean up pee. That's not my job.
I know, but it's part of the deal. I'm surprised that it's taken him this long in his career to finally start this process, but now he seems to like it. So happening on the regular now, you're getting this issue every other week.
Well, I'll say this: in his old age, yes, he is more prone to peeing in the seat for sure. But I'm talking to JGR management right now to try to give me a raise because this is ridiculous. And I'll be honest with you, I can't eat asparagus anymore. I mean, I'm traumatized. I can't listen to Yellow by Coldplay.
No. Oh, man.
You sound pissed.
Yeah, no pun intended, right?
Yeah. So, how does he break the news? I guess he told us he said something in Victory Lane this past weekend. You're happy you've won the race, but then you get that dropped on you.
Yeah, well, I mean, he kind of pulls me aside and then he says, hey, and then he pauses for a little bit. And he's like, sorry, I peed in the seat again. And I'm like, did you just pee? And he's like, maybe a little bit.
Right then in
right
Victory Lane?
there, yeah. He can't control it. I mean,
man.
It's like he turns, a certain age and he just starts peeing all the time.
I guess he feels like when he's in that driver's suit, it's just okay to go anywhere.
I guess.
That's
I mean,
pretty...
we're talking to JGR management about, getting yellow colored suits at least. I mean, at least it could blend in at the best,
Yeah. Yep. Well, man, we
I have a question for him, actually. Did it impact the racing surface at Bristol at all?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I'll be honest, I listen to Denny's podcasts. Sometimes it pisses me off, no pun intended again. But I have a theory.
Yeah.
I think that Denny's secret now, he said someone peed in the tire compound. I think Denny peed in the tire compound. That's my theory right now.
You think Denny went to Akron, Ohio, and pissed in the Goodyear mix?
Absolutely. I think he's got a little bit of an unfair advantage. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Denny went Saturday night back to Bristol while everyone was gone and went all over that racetrack and just peed all over it.
Who needs resin?
And he's the only one that knew, right? So he knew exactly how to run in the resin or, the PP. And he knew exactly what to do.
Shredding tires up.
How to run in the PP.
They're going to call it PJ11 the next time they put down.
PP11.
PP11,
Oh,
yeah.
my gosh.
We got that all-in T-shirt. We need PP11 T-shirts.
All in, he's all out. All out of pee.
All out.
Golly. Well,
I'm actually sorry, not to interrupt, but I was on the phone with Urinators Anonymous, and I'm trying to sign him up for classes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they meet every Thursday, and they try to practice controlling their bladders.
Yeah,
so I
bladder
think
control.
hopefully that helps them.
Oh, man. Well, I don't envy your situation. All right. Thank you for talking to us today, Denny's interior guy. Appreciate the phone call, and good luck. I guess good luck. Good luck with that race.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. We appreciate that. That was cool.
I still can't get over. He can't listen to Yellow by Colt.
Yeah, that is funny. That is funny. The wait is over, NASCAR fans. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is officially live in North Carolina, and right now, new customers get $250 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet your first $5. Just go to FanDuel.com/Dale to sign up. Then you can bet on everything from individual race winners to prop bets to which driver's going to take home the championship, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Start your engines with $250 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/Dale to get started. FanDuel, authorized gaming operator of NASCAR. 21 plus and present in North Carolina. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Bonus issue as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. Denny had a great car. The 19 car had a great car as well. Truex. Some of these guys had different challenges. Denny talks about organizations having cars that traditionally wear tires more. I never even thought of that. Whereas, he feels like their cars are better at saving tires or taking care of the tires for long run. You could see where, certain teams, organizations, struggled as a whole. It's like all the Gibbs cars were running up front. Now, Ty Gibbs, maybe, you could see he pushed a little bit harder than the 11, the 19. I'm sure he'd go back and do that differently. But you would see all the Penske cars just sort of throughout the day having more and more issues trying to make it, that 45 or 50 laps that you needed to go. But anyways, I think to Jenny's point, they can go make adjustments on these cars knowing they may give up speed. They may give up some balance and comfort in the car. But teams have been so used to how durable the Goodyear tire is. There's never, it's been a long time since they've had to worry about beating up the tire. It's allowed them to get more and more and more aggressive with settings. Stiffening up the car, camber settings, all those things that are going to beat up the tire and abuse the tire. They've been able to, kind of be pushed pretty hard on that. And so when throwing a soft tire into the mix, a lot of the teams, weren't ready for that. And I think to Denny's point, they could make the adjustments, dial a lot of things out of the cars to make the cars. And that's my whole stance. Goodyear, don't move. Goodyear, don't change. Ask the teams to make the adjustments. Ask the teams to adapt. Just the same way they adapted during that race. Ask the teams to find what they can inside those cars and in the setups of those cars to make those tires work. Denny talks about it. They've already, in just 24 hours, found 20, 25 laps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I spoke kind of like to your point there, teams weren't expecting it. I spoke to Chris Gabehart in Victory Lane after the race, and he's like, yeah, by 80 to 100 laps, we expected the track to be rubbered in, and it just did not happen that way. But, Denny was saying he doesn't want Goodyear to change the thing. Chris Gabehart had something similar to say. I think we've got a clip.
Let's listen to it.
I don't want Goodyear to get drugged through the coals on this. I mean, Goodyear, they made us race. Mm-hmm. They made us make decisions. Do you want to manage your tires or blow them out? Do you want to pit under green or do you want to stay out and wait for a caution? What do you want to do? And that's great. That creates great racing. So, we need to figure out how to do this more often and not kind of a freak set of circumstances that we're all scratching our heads. But honestly, kudos to Goodyear for making us all work.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm glad that everybody's being vocal about it. A lot of the if he doesn't say that, if we don't come on our show and voice our opinions, the fans are left to make assumptions and decisions on their own, right? And more often than not, they're going to look at that race. If you don't have Kevin Harvick and Clint Boyer up in that booth describing everything that's playing out, they did an amazing job. Really, really entertaining listen. If you don't have that going on, if you don't have Denny and all these guys getting out of their cars and giving us the full rundown, fans would be left to assume that was not a good show. That was a problem. That was an issue. Goodyear needs to fix. And so it's good that everybody's coming out and saying, "No, man, let's not hammer Goodyear. There's other avenues that we can take to make this tire work." I mentioned that I thought Goodyear jumped into PR mode a little bit too quickly. I'm not a Goodyear CEO, or I'm not an executive. Would I have reacted the same way? More than likely. But I wish they would have held off on that explanation till the race was over with, because I felt like at halfway things weren't going to get worse. I think that was the reason for the press conference, was just in case this really turns into a show.
Yeah.
I need to get in front of it. One of the things that we, would have fixed all this, and something that I think we need to consider, is bringing some practice back to the race weekend. We talk about how the teams had a little bit of practice. They saw where they were concerned, but not too terribly nervous about it. Figured it would fix itself during the race when the track rubbered in. Well, they would have learned in practice, had they had 2 or 3 hours, like we traditionally used to have before 2020, they would have learned, hey, man, this track's not taking rubber. This track isn't reacting the way we want. The tire isn't improving in wear. The wear was similar throughout the entire practice. We had a little practice, maybe an hour on Friday, maybe a couple hours on Saturday, and nothing's changed. We need to work on our car. I think that as we've trimmed down the race weekend for financial reasons, right, we're trying to make this cheaper, we're putting ourselves in situations where we could have helped ourselves. We could have, made the adjustments had we had a little bit of time on the racetrack, that we would have had in a traditional weekend that, I don't think we need 3 hours of practice every weekend, but I do believe we need it back at a lot of places, and especially in scenarios like this when it allows Goodyear that confidence to try to be aggressive. And I don't think it affects the race one bit.
You don't think so?
No, not really. I mean, the good cars are going to run good.
Don't you think that, I know this weekend's kind of a unique situation, but with more practice, it would have taken away some of the fun in watching teams react to the conditions on the fly? Because that's what I really enjoyed about watching the race, is the lack of practice actually helped, I think, my enjoyment of it, because, even like Chris Gabehart said, the goal wasn't to perfect the car mid-race. It was just to get it within the ballpark. Yeah. To watch teams react that way, I thought was interesting.
I agree.
Do you think practice would have ruined it?
No, I don't. You have a really, really good valid point there. If you have enough practice, the teams, solve the Rubik's Cube.
Problem.
Yeah. And then we don't have this just crazy race. But we all really don't want that race again, right?
Really?
No.
I enjoyed it.
I did too. I enjoyed the hell out of it. But do I want them to maybe get the tire to run 20, 25 laps further? Do I want them to get to 80, 100 laps before we start C-cording? I think that's really the place we want to be. I don't think that Goodyear drivers or anybody, fans, myself, want to go to a short track and have a 45-lap tire, right? Really, if they run hard, it's a 30-lap tire. So we got to get more than that. Yes, they can make the adjustments to the cars, but then you would have to give them the practice, right?
Right.
So, I mean, this is a big circle we can argue around. And I just feel like that would it have taken away some of the shock and absurdity of the first 100 and 200 laps? Probably. And that might have been a good thing because I know a lot of people were spiraling out of control on social media that this was terrible, that this was a joke. And so we would have avoided sort of that. The team still would have been challenged. All we really want is the drivers to have to manage it, right? And so even if they practice for a couple hours, I think it would have just given some of these teams that couldn't get the car to run 30 laps no matter what the driver did a chance to show up on Sunday and have an opportunity. You would have still had a tire that failed before the fuel ran out, which is what we want.
Okay, right.
We want a tire that's going to fail if you drive the shit out of it. Just like Clint said, he made that Days of Thunder reference. Drive it 40 laps my way and 40 laps your way, and then you set the tires side by side, right? That's what we want in racing. I want a tire that before the fuel runs out of the car, you can destroy it if you're not smart. You can abuse it, and it will cost you, right? I don't want a tire that's so bulletproof the driver can run 100% until he has to pit for gas. That's when we're going to hear about aero tight, can't pass, everybody's the same. I can't, I get stuck in 30th and I can't go anywhere. That's why. Because that tire is so good, everybody can run hard every lap, every corner. And so, this gave us an extreme version of what we're really all looking for. I think Goodyear could probably make an adjustment and fix it. Maybe just allowing the teams a couple races to figure it out would be enough. I think adding a little bit of practice just so we can avoid, a serious issue like we had at Indy in 2008 would be nice. And it would give Goodyear and the teams the knowledge to continue this path, right? Showing up and racing, showing up and racing, and showing up and racing, doing a little tire testing in between. There's a variable that's missing, even in that equation, to try to solve exactly where we need to be with the tire at the short tracks to make the short track racing better, and that's the weekend practice. And so I'd appreciate if, the teams were given those opportunities, and maybe they don't even want them. Maybe the owners are like, nah, I don't want to spend the money. There were, to Denny's point, I love the fact that there were, teams that seemed to figure it out, teams that seemed to adapt, and drivers that didn't.
Yeah.
It was funny because, to Denny's point, you could drive to the front, and that little carrot's out there, right? You're like, shit, man, I could take the lead. I could drive into the top 5 if I want to. It's going to cost me. I might hate it at the end of this tire run and have to pit early. But damn, that's a lure that's almost too good to pass up for some guys. And so you see guys, that typically maybe don't run up in the top 10, driving toward the front, right, and paying the price later. There were some drivers out there that Goodyear definitely didn't have the inventory for. No matter what happened, they weren't going to change their style or adapt, right? And that's what we want. We want to weed these guys out. The spotters and the crew chiefs, they had to talk their drivers off the ledge. TJ talked about how they had a lap time that they wanted Brad to run. We do that in our late model races. Before the race starts, we're doing this before we even get to the track. I think we need to run an 1880. If we can run an 1880 the whole race, we'll win the race. So we get to the racetrack, watch lap times, watch practice, start the race. This is what the leaders are doing. All right, man, we're going to run this lap time for the first 50 laps, no harder. And every time you would, get a couple tenths too quick, spotter comes on the radio, hey, man, that's too fast. Slow down. Okay, okay. And so it's because it's a chess match. You're positioning yourself, right? And so hoping that if everything falls in line, you've got a way better tire in those last 20 laps than all the guys in front of you, and that you're going to take advantage of it. Puts on a hell of a show. And so we heard TJ talk about that, having to back his driver down. And so I love that. Helping them understand the severity of the tire wear. Drivers, don't know how bad these tires are wearing. They can't see that right rear when it comes off the car. Now, they watch that right front when it rolls around the front of the car.
You can probably feel it too, but...
Well, you can feel the cord happening, but I always would, if I thought I had a tire issue, we come down pit road, jack the car up, traditional pit stop, and I'm watching that. I'm looking over the steering wheel, looking over the hood, watching that right front tire as it rolls over to the wall. Is there any cords or any chunks, blisters? What do I see? And sometimes you don't see shit. You're like, ugh, what the hell? So I know the drivers were trying to watch, tires on the front of the car as they're getting rolled across pit road during their stop, but they can't see the right rear. And so they're having to get information from spotters and crew chiefs about how severe the wear is. It's like, when you get damage on your car, you don't know how bad it is. You can't see a photo. You can't watch TV. You got to get information from your crew about how bad the splitter's been or how bad the right rear quarter panel is. You don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Reddick on DBC yesterday, he said, I didn't even know how damaged my car was until I got out of the car.
Yes.
Man, that whole front thing was destroyed.
Exactly. So the question is do the driver, the thing that was fascinating too was, do the drivers listen as they're getting this information from teams and spotters about lap times and wear and, the scenario is dire. Look, man, this is unlike anything we've seen before. Fix and adjust. Would the drivers, get it? Would they make the adjustments to their line, how they drove the car to try to improve tire wear?
I think they definitely got smarter.
Yeah, they did.
I mean, so many drivers after the race that were in scrums that I talked to, they're really surprised that last caution never showed up on that long green flag run.
One last thing that I will say that I really thought was cool is Denny gets out of the car and makes this comment. He says the victory meant more to him because of the way he had to go about winning it. He quotes in his quotes, it's, I know I had such a huge role in the result. If the car was not good, I wasn't going to win, but I feel like I played a huge factor in the result. I'm really proud. It's a real proud one for me. Certainly one of the more proud ones I've had in my career, no question. So, in that, what I'm hearing is we made a win mean more. We made a win at Bristol mean more than a win at Bristol means. All right? We made the race harder to win. And if you guarantee fans a similar event in the fall, you're going to sell more tickets and you're going to have better TV ratings. I'm sure of it. So anytime you can make the win mean more to the driver, anytime you can make the race harder to win, I'm more than likely going to be more entertained, more fascinated, and more impressed, right? That was impressive to watch those guys figure that out. And I mean, I watched every freaking lap because you thought any minute something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sitting there waiting, we're not sitting there passing the time through stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, waiting to see what happens at the end. Every single moment of that race was a potential, storm.
That's the longest I think I've been invested flag to flag in a long time.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, anything could have happened at any time. I was watching the press box and just glued to the racetrack. Didn't look at the TV at all. That's not typical for how I typically would consume a race.
The recipe is there for Bristol to become one of the favorite tracks of the schedule again, and I think that we're close to it.
Yeah, you want to know too another thing about we always, a lot of the reason people say, man, they ran the bottom at Bristol years ago. How do we get them back to the bottom? Right? We've been putting the PJ one down and the stick them and stuff like that, trying to make them race on the bottom so they'll push each other, knock each other out of the way because that's the only way around the track. But another thing too is. Man, when those marbles, they started, everybody was making such a big deal out of the debris, tire debris on the racetrack. Man, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, that's every single race. That you did not get out of the groove. It was marbles. And drivers would, wreck and they'd get out of the car and go, yeah, man, got in the marbles. That was natural, common occurrence every single week. And so when that started happening, I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before. No one's going to go up there. It's too dirty. There won't be anybody cleaning that off. It's too much to clean off. It's not happening. And so we never saw anyone run the fence. They talked about how when they got out of the resin, the wear was worse. The tire wear was worse higher up the racetrack. But also those marbles, man, you were not going to go up there because it would kill your tire. You get that on your hot tire and it's stuck, and it's, takes laps for that to get worn away. And so that was another compelling, sort of very nostalgic thing that we saw. And hearing about, putting scuffs on and them being more durable. When's the last time we've ever heard that? Teams used to scuff tires anytime there was ever a concern about tires blistering, because back in the 80s and 90s, tires had a lot more tread on them, and the blistering was the issue. You wasn't going into the cords like a tire does today. You blistered tires because they had so much rubber that the heat would build underneath and it would blister away from the bottom layer. And so today's tire is so thin, the tread depth is so thin, and all the oils that Denny's talking about have been taken out of the tire. Some of the less greener oils, the more toxic chemicals, have been removed from the tire. And now when that tire does wear, it wears straight to the cord. It's like a powder. And so it's crazy how all that's changed over the years. But, I mean, in the 80s and 90s, the whole track would be littered with marbles and debris off the racing groove. And you really didn't venture far, out of that singular, 1 or 1.5, 2 grooves. Now there were tracks that did have a high line, and depending on, I think, like we learned this weekend, temperature, track temp, and all those things, that tire's going to wear differently. The marbles are going to be less or more or whatever. But man, it was a very, very fascinating thing and brought back a lot of memories. We would go to races in the 80s and 90s, and if there was ever any concern of tires blistering, teams immediately started scuffing every single set. So the teams could access all of their tires, even their race tires. Nowadays, you're not allowed any of that access to them. You get to put air in them. You get to stack them up. That's it. But in years past, in the 80s and 90s, man, if there was a tire concern, they just would go ahead and scuff them. No problem. Alleviated. Problem fixed. No concerns. Because when you scuff the tire, it sort of shocks it, or it makes the tire more durable. Going through that cycle and cooling back down just hardens the rubber in some weird way so that it'll be a more durable tire when it's put on the race car during the race. And so that was another fascinating thing that got brought up during the event on Sunday.
Let me ask you this then. A lot of people cited, obviously, like temperature, but then also concrete doesn't really rubber up, they've noticed, until 65 plus degrees.
That's a great point. And the other thing, too, is like at Martinsville and at Bristol, when the track does rubber up, and it did put a little faint bit of rubber down at certain points of that race when they would run long enough. Not noticeably, but when the caution comes out, the hot tire picks the rubber back up. So they'll blacken the groove, and then caution comes out, and they'll pick all that back up, especially at Martinsville. And then they repeat that whole cycle over again. The track goes back green. I mean, the literal surface of the track is green,
right?
Like a new track,
fresh,
like a fresh track. And they got to rubber it all in again, right? And if the run's long enough, that again happens until the caution comes out and they pick it all back up. It's this sort of vicious sort of circle, especially at Martinsville. For years that happened. I believe that happens on asphalt racetracks. So
okay.
The color of the racetrack doesn't allow us.
That's going to be my follow-up question.
I just believe the color of the racetrack doesn't allow us to see it as easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the rubber gets laid down, it gets picked back up. I think that happens anywhere and everywhere. But it's more noticeable on a concrete racetrack. And probably more, it probably happens more
aggressively.
Aggressively, yeah, is the word I'm looking for, at a concrete racetrack. But I still feel like, the brushed concrete, when they brush it when it's wet, right? And it cures if you took your hand and rubbed your hand across it like that, it would hurt.
It's like sandpaper almost.
Yes, it would. Yeah. All right. Do that go to an asphalt track, not as painful. That's what the tire's dealing with. So if you take this issue to Richmond It's not going to be a problem. But if you go back to Bristol or Dover or, these concrete tracks, you got to be a little concerned and be careful.
So let me ask you this then. Asphalt or concrete, especially when it comes to Bristol?
I hate concrete. I don't think concrete should be surface on any of the racetracks we run on. I don't. I would dig up every concrete track right now, even the corners of Martinsville, and pave them. No question. No hesitation.
Why do you hate it so much?
I don't like the way so concrete concrete is poured in sections, blocks, right? So they got to cut concrete because as it goes through a season of change in temperature, it has to change and it swells and contraction. So if you look at if you ever drove down the interstate, right? They pour concrete in chunks, right? And if you ever drive down the interstate on an old concrete interstate, it's like dunk, 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 dunk. Car starts hopping and bouncing. Well, it's just like a deck, a wooden deck that's not treated. The edges of those boards bow up, right? Well, that's how that concrete does at the joists. When they went to Indy, when they took Indy to Dover for the first time, they had massive issues with the joists or the joints in the concrete where it was cut. Those had bowed up and down over the years, right? And so it was these little peaks, and they had to go grind all of that down. Massive grinding at Dover to get the Indy cars or the IRL where they could run through there smoothly. And they didn't run there very many years before they just quit. But when I would run at Dover, my tires would get hot and they would build air pressure, and they would feel like basketballs, like they were literally bouncing across those joints. Lap 250 in the race, 80 laps into a run, tires are screaming, massive buildup in air pressure and temperature, and they felt like they were literally leaving the surface of the racetrack as they were jumping these joints. And so I just don't love the way concrete feels in a race car. I don't love the way it reacts to the tire. I don't love the way that it's unpredictable in terms of the groove. When we would go to Dover and race, for example, sometimes the only way around that racetrack was right on the bottom, and then you'd go back and you could run the top, and you didn't know why, and it made, it was tire temperature and all those things, but it was always that way on the concrete tracks. They were very unpredictable. You go to Atlanta, you knew you were going to run the fence at some point. You go to Fontana, same thing. You go to these asphalt racetracks, and you knew you might start on the bottom, but you were going to end up at the top, or you might run the middle here or whatever. It's very predictable. But I just don't like concrete. I think that the way the cars react and slip, and the way the tire reacts and the slip angle of the tire, it's not the best choice in racing surface for our cars, for oval stock car racing. It's not the optimal surface. If you could have the perfect surface, you certainly wouldn't make it concrete. They made concrete, they poured concrete in the corners at Martinsville, and they poured concrete at Dover and at Bristol only because the asphalt couldn't hold up. In the heat of the summer, they would rip that asphalt up and tear it up. And they had problem after problem after problem. But that was in the 80s and in the early 90s. Now, technology is much better these days, and I think the pavement would hold up. We're going to find out, I think, when they go to, North Wilkesboro with that new asphalt there. Modifieds, late model stocks, cup cars, trucks, all going 2.5, 3 seconds faster around that racetrack. If they don't have any if they don't have any surface issues, I'll be surprised. They may have minimal, some failure of the surface at some point, but hopefully it's no big deal. But I beg Marcus and those guys to pave Bristol one day. I doubt I'll see that in my lifetime, but I imagine maybe one day. All right, so before we move on from Bristol, I came back to the office yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Andrew, you were at Bristol.
Yes.
Man on the street, doing your thing. Did you have fun?
I had a freaking blast.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
Yep, good. Everybody's texting me like, hey, saw Andrew today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people like you, man.
Who'd you get
people.
texts from?
Different people.
Different people?
Yeah.
I saw a bunch of people there.
I'm always knowing.
You're always,
I know where you are.
You're
all the time.
always watching.
Oh yeah. So
That is actually kind of
It's
terrifying.
terrifying. Yeah.
so you had this conversation with Joe Logano.
Yes.
All right. Joey had something to say.
Well, yeah, I was asking, it was kind of a follow-up, hey, do you have any good Dale Jr. impressions? He's like, no,
Jesus.
but I have something to say to Dale.
Okay, good.
And this is what he had to say.
All right.
I saw him the other day, and I walked up and I said, hey, I got a problem with you. And he's like, what? And I said, really? Like insurance salesman? That's what you think I look like? Because he said that in the Netflix doc. And I was like, come on, man. And we laughed about it. It was kind of funny. But
Do you think you can sell insurance?
I mean, I think I'd be a hell of a salesman.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably not wrong. But I like to think I'm a better race car driver. But, yeah, sometimes you just can't help the way you look.
No, that's right.
No,
Yeah, hey,
this is what it
insurance
is.
sales. Yeah. He said, do you know Blippy?
Oh, yeah.
Cindric?
I mean,
he says Cindric looks like Blippy. Do you
With
see
that bow tie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know
See
if
it?
that's a good thing.
It's not a good thing.
That's awesome. I'm glad you both. Cindric is going to come after me. Once he gets understanding of all of this, he's not going to be happy.
I saw him. He was talking to someone, but I really wanted to go up and say, like,
you got all year.
yeah.
All right. Don't work yourself to
I want to
death
go to
here.
Martinsville, so we might
Yeah.
have to catch him there.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Let's let that one marinate a little while. These
Team Penske's looking real good. They got an insurance salesman.
And
They got
Blippy.
Blippy
driving their cars.
and Blaney.
Yeah. It's Blaney, who's like Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things I think that you run the risk of when you're an analyst or you're somebody that's got to give their opinion all the time, which I don't have to, but the stuff that we do, the content we create, it calls for it, and sometimes you're going to say some things you're going to like, God dang, how they gonna take this? Because drivers, I was one, right? I was a driver. We usually take things too personal, and a lot of times everything creates a chip. You got a chip on your shoulder about everything, right? And so they're sensitive. So anyhow, he's a good sport.
He is. Yeah. I agree.
And he's a hell of a race car driver. One hell of a race car driver. Way better than he'd ever be as a salesman of insurance. And I bet he'd sell some insurance.
Well, I asked him, like, hey, do you think you could do it? And he's like, I could probably do it pretty good. I think he's competitive about whatever he does.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him try sell insurance.
Sure.
Just see if he can do it.
All right. So I'm glad you got to do that. When do we see the rest of the content you created? I know you were out there working.
Well, I'm editing today's show today, so I'm going to hope to get to all of it tomorrow and, be out Wednesday or Thursday, hopefully this week.
The man on the street from Bristol, Andrew Curlin, sometime this week.
Sometime this week.
All right.
That's
Good
right.
stuff. This week's segment was brought to you by Tire Pros. Man, there's few people who love cars as much as I do, but these tire and service experts equally love the drive. They offer a huge selection of brand name tires and full service repairs, from oil changes to alignments to brakes. Tire Pros is giving your vehicle the TLC it deserves. Tire Pros is unique because each location is owned by men and women in your community, but with the added support and resources of over 600 locations nationwide. Next time you need to take care of your car, take it into Tire Pros. Show your neighbors some love, and make sure you tell them Dale sent you. Let's get into Ask Junior.
We are live.
All right. Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land or wherever you're watching this. Thank you for tuning in. It's the Dale Jr. Download. Yes, I made that one. It's the Dale Jr. Download, and it's one of those days. I feel like I got a hair in my nose. It's tickling my nose. I feel like I need to pull that out. But we're having a lot of fun on this Tuesday, talking about Bristol, talking about being on Door Bumper Clear this week, and all the great stuff that we have coming out. Also, talking about Xfinity. Xfinity is a big supporter of Ask Junior. And I know that I'm supposed to be talking about Xfinity Mobile. They have the fastest mobile service with 5G and millions of Wi-Fi hotspots all across the country. Nationwide coverage. It's always going to come through in a clutch. I know I'm supposed to tell you that. But I got to tell you, man, I got an email.
Oh.
So I've been, shared with you guys. I'm an Xfinity Series internet customer. And so I live in an area where that's provided, and that's the plan that I purchased about 5 years ago. And I love it. I've never had any problems with it, but I got an email this past week. They repped my speed up. They doubled my upload speed. Missed that one. They doubled my upload speed.
Double? That's
And
a big deal.
at no cost, no extra cost. They're like, hey, man, just going to tell you your speeds are faster. Paying the same, no problem. How about that?
That's pretty cool.
I was very happy about that. And I know for a fact that this is not like special Dale Jr. treatment. This is like just I'm a normal customer. They don't know who the hell I am. You know what I mean? So I was very happy about that. Because sometimes things happen in my life, and I'll go, Amy, that was cool. And she goes, everybody's nice to you, Dale. Shut up. Not everybody gets that. So, but in this case, I think this was a normal thing.
Yeah.
But I was very happy about that. So thank you, Xfinity. And Andrew's got your questions you sent in to, have we sent them into Twitter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook. By the way, shout out to Facebook.
Yeah.
They've been killing it with the questions.
I'm still not calling it X yet. I don't know if I'll ever do that.
I'm not going to do it either.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just so.
It could be whatever it wants to be.
You know what? It's kind of like the Lucky Dog, and it took me a while to get to Free Pass. I still struggle with that one.
Nah, it's
right?
a Lucky Dog.
Yeah, I
It'll
still
always
want to
be.
call it the Lucky Dog. But I'll do it in the race, and they'll be like, hey, Junior, it's not been the Lucky Dog for years. Anyhow, and never mind. We'll talk about that one later. So let's get to the questions.
Yes, this first one from the YouTube chat. They're asking why you shaved.
Yeah. So, honest answers. I went. This is all right. Honest answer. I've made no secret about turning 50 in October. It's got me a little spun out. Not sure how I feel about it. 40 was no big deal. We partied. We had a great time. 50, not sure how happy about that I am. None, really. Not happy at all about it. So, anyways, hadn't had my hair cut in a while. It was getting pretty rough. Hadn't been trimming my beard. I was wearing sweatpants most every day.
That is rough.
Yeah,
That's
I was
not
just
good.
dragging. I was really just kind of doing the bare minimum.
Yeah,
Yeah, brushing teeth.
that's good.
Yeah, that was it.
We appreciate
There was
that.
like a span of about 5 days there where I was like, if this continues, it's could become permanent.
I'm glad you said that because I
yeah.
was going to tell you.
Yeah, so I was thinking like, man, I'm going to go get a haircut. Amy schedules me this haircut, and I thought, man, I'm just going to give her a clean slate, blank canvas. So every once in a while, I don't know that if you grow beards, this, like the skin around this area gets dry and it just needs air, right? And moisture and all those things. And so when you have a beard, it sort of gets a little bit irritated sometimes. But so I was like, it's probably time to knock it off and give it a little bit of time to breathe. So I've been trying to keep it short. The reason why I grew a beard was because I was a Gillette Young Gun, and they wouldn't let you have they wouldn't let you grow any facial hair, right? And so like I was like, it's a great deal. I like being one of the Gillette Young Guns, but I can't do what I want. I can't grow a goatee or whatever the hell I want to do, right? And so I was always fighting against that. I'd grow a goatee or something, and they'd be like, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And I'm like, well, who are you? Tell me what to do with my face.
Damn beard police.
Yeah. Fun police, beard police. And I couldn't even grow a beard there at one point. And so, when I was younger, it's patchy or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so once I got to where I could grow one, man, I was like, I'm growing the beard. And then I was like, I'm going to see how long I can get my beard. And, then I'm trying to push against, Amy. She's like, hey, that's too long. And I'm like, oh, yeah? Well, watch this. I'm going to keep going. And so, it's like this sort of rebellious thing that's just out of control inside of me, man. And so, and then, anyways, I kind of, and there's the one other thing about growing a beard. We're always doing, when you're a race car driver, you do multiple photo shoots a year. And especially now where everybody's got 18 different sponsors, You've got to do a photo shoot with all of them. And that every photo shoot means makeup. All right? And I hate getting makeup put on my face. Hate it. Right? And so some makeup people go very thin, very light. Almost don't even do anything. And they're like, all right, you're ready. And you're like, oh, okay, this is a good day. And then sometimes, man, they're packing it on there. It's like you don't even recognize yourself when you look in the mirror. And you're like, is this necessary? I really don't. Now, this is like too noticeable. Like everybody knows. As soon as I go home, Amy's like, hey, you got makeup. You're wearing makeup. It's like super obvious. And so when I would grow the beard, it's like, hey, you can't put makeup on that part. Right?
So it's again
Nice.
rebellious.
Yes. I'm like, no makeup here, buddy.
Yeah.
Shorten the time in the makeup chair by a lot. And so I shaved the beard, and I forgot that I had this Hellman's shoot just last week. And, man, I went in there, and they spackled that right on.
Yeah.
And I was not liking that. But, man, I came home, and as soon as I walk in the door, my girls and Amy are like, you got makeup on. And then I got to tell Isla, who's 5, why I'm wearing makeup. So here's the thing.
We're going to start adding makeup.
Yeah. So
soon
there's
at the
a
beginning
long
of today.
explanation about nothing.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you shaved the beard.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think I got some text messages from friends that have seen me since, and they're like, it's weird. I don't like it.
It was a little jarring when I saw you this
Yeah.
morning, for sure. Or I guess yesterday.
Yeah. So I think, you know what that means? We're keeping it.
What, you're gonna keep shaving?
Because people don't like
Because
it.
people don't like it.
You're going to keep
Dang.
shaving it.
All
The
right.
rebellious, like, oh, yeah, really? All right. Well, I'm going to keep
It's
it.
the opposite.
Yeah. I'm going to make it normal.
We're bringing clean shaven back on the download.
I'm a pain in the ass, I guess, is what I'm getting down to.
There you go.
Yeah.
This next question, let's see, I've got a bunch written down here. This one comes from Alan. He said, given the opportunity, would you ever want music playing through your helmet?
Yeah. So I think so. I think that would be totally fine. So when I was racing in the Bud car, probably 2003, 2004, we would go to a 3-day test at Daytona in January. And the entire test was making single car runs. You'd make a change to the body, just a little puff, a little aluminum piece, or a little change to the air cleaner or whatever, right? Tiny changes. They would have a list of 150 things that they wanted to go out and make one run with. And so you had to have absolute clean racetrack. So everybody would pull out on pit road, and you'd get in line, and cars would go one at a time and run 2 or 3 laps. And there would be about a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile between cars. You wanted that much of a gap so you weren't affected by the air of the car in front of you. So you could get 2 or 3 cars on the racetrack, but it took a long time. You'd come out on pit road, and you'd pull out and see like 25 freaking cars sitting there in line. You're like, damn, I got to wait a long time before I make my next run. So you'd pull out there, and it'd be 30 minutes of you moving up in line, one car after another, going out and making their run. Finally, it's your turn. And so finally, I told Tony Jr., I said, man, I know you don't want – if I said, hey, give me some music during a race, they would go, absolutely not. Nobody's doing that. And it's a distraction. How could you be serious about racing if you want to listen to music during the race? So that would never be something you would ask for. Would I think it would be? Do I think it would be a distraction? No. I think you'd race just as good, if not maybe better. If you had the right song playing, maybe you're even more motivated, right, or having a better time. So I think in a way, music is motivating and can drive energy, right? Can affect your mentality, more your mental state, right? So I wouldn't, if a driver came to me and said, I want to listen to music, I'd say, well, what kind of music? And if I thought the music was going to be good music or music that would give them energy and exciting, make them excited, I'd let them listen to it. I would. I'd try it. But back in them days, man, you didn't want to do anything that might give the team the thought that you weren't focused. So, but we're going to the test, and I'm like, Tony Jr., I want music in my car. How can we do that? So we rigged up a wiring system for the helmet that would allow me to plug this is MP3 days. They didn't have iPods or nothing. But you would plug an MP3 player into it, it would play music, and anytime Tony Jr. keyed the mic, it would block it out, and I could hear him. And so if he had to tell me anything important, like a spotter saying, "Hey man, it's your turn. When this car goes by, take off." Things like that. But yeah, I was able to listen to music during the tests.
What was on the playlist back then?
My playlist has always probably been traditional alternative, 90s alternative, current popular rock.
Pearl Jam.
Yeah, things like
Nirvana.
that. Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Wrong answer is only what song is being played, like now. Like, driver comes up to you, "Hey, I want to play music." Wrong answer is only. What's like a bad song? Anything slow.
Yeah, anything slow.
Yeah.
Classical or...
The theme to the Titanic.
Yeah.
The Penny Whistle
Yeah.
solo. Yeah.
Beach,
Yeah.
maybe beach music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beach
Different
boys
tracks
and stuff like that.
might have different playlists.
Someone in the YouTube chat said Freebird solo. That would be fantastic.
Hell yeah.
Just you'd win that race.
Yeah.
This next question's coming from John. Have you filled out an NCAA
No,
bracket?
I have not.
Yet?
Not yet.
Any teams that you like?
Nope. North
You're just
Carolina,
gonna
Tar
wing
Heels.
it? All right.
Yeah, I'm a Tar Heels fan.
Nice.
Yep.
It's a shame.
Carolina Blue.
It's a shame. My Wolfpack beat them on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, it happens.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll take them as they come.
Yep.
This next question is from Rick. Favorite Sunday morning cartoon?
Sunday. Man, my
Saturday.
cartoons came on Saturday.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. They said Rick
Yeah,
said
come on,
Sunday.
Rick.
They must have changed over the years, but back in 40 years ago, Saturday morning cartoons was a thing, man. You'd watch Saturday morning cartoons and then NWA wrestling with Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA and Tully Blanchard and all those guys. Ole and Arn Anderson. No.
I never did
Okay.
that. Yeah.
I think Bugs Bunny was always the Looney Tunes stuff was always kind of the good stuff, but the Coyote, Wile E. the Coyote,
That was always good with the
always
Roadrunner.
good, yeah. I don't know. I have to think back, man.
I liked Tom and Jerry a lot.
Tom and Jerry was good.
Yeah, I liked
It's
Tom and
funny.
Jerry.
My kids, they're into the Disney and all the things and the Bluey and lots of Peppa Pig, and I try to slide in some of that old stuff. They don't. They're like, "What is that?"
Really?
Man, they don't see Tom and Jerry. And I'm like, "Wait, man, this is supposed to entertain
Yeah.
you," and they're like, "This ain't it, man."
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. That's just me.
Yeah.
I didn't really do a whole lot of that.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We know.
We got time for one more question. This one's from Leroy. Where did the origin of like your steering wheel technique
Oh, that's a great question.
start?
I saw that in my timeline over the week. I feel like if you look at pictures of my dad and obviously Mark Martin, but when you look at pictures of drivers from back in the day, like there's a clip of Cale Yarborough driving around Arlington and we're riding in the car. I think that they kind of used a similar hand position, but Mark Martin is the one driver that it wasn't intentional, but if there's anybody that I'm exactly the same on hand position, it's Mark Martin. And I don't know why what I do with my hands is just something that just happened, instinctual. It ain't that I saw a person do it and I said, okay, that's the way I'm going to do it. It just is, you drive out on the racetrack and you start driving and you start doing it. And you're either going to be the way I do it or you're going to be one of these 10-2 guys, And so Brad Keselowski started driving for us, and he's a 10-2. So he goes in the corner and he don't move his hands, and I'm like, I'm gonna try that. So we're at a test, and I'm trying, and I'm like, I'm slower. I'm like, car. It even changes the balance of the car, which is probably a good thing. But I was like, man, if I would have to do this for like a year or 2 years before I actually felt like I got back to how fast I could run. Yeah, like I think it would slow me down, and I would eventually get back the speed I lost and get used to doing it. But I don't know, man. I just love just wrestling that wheel, and I'm gonna teach this car a lesson, you know. But
You're all about that rebellious thing.
yeah, I guess it is. But man, when I see Mark Martin drive a car, I'm like, yeah, I get it. You know, he had this. They call it the Arkansas Pull. Where's he from?
Mark
I think
Martin.
you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Double check that.
So, anyhow, I don't know. I think it's just instinctual, and I think Dad's was similar. I think drivers that I grew up watching in the late 70s and early 80s, all of them drove the cars that way because none of them had power steering like we have it today. And so driving the car this way was not enough leverage. You didn't have enough leverage to keep in the turn, keep the car, drive the car where you wanted to go. Some probably still drove it that way. I think if I think about, like in my mind, that video of Cale at Darlington, I think he actually does kind of keep his hands like that through the corners. But I think with the older cars and the harder, you had to tug on the steering wheel, that was a better leverage to get the car to turn. But it's hard to break habits.
Does it translate over to when you drive on the road?
No.
You ever just take a right-hand turn and just...
No, I don't think so.
I tape the middle of my steering wheel.
Yeah.
So I know,
Yeah. That's a good one, man. I know we talked about that a lot, and it's just instincts of, you're going to grip the bat or swing a hammer or swing a golf club.
Right.
Yeah. So
awesome. Well, that's a good place to end Ash Junior today. I did see someone in the YouTube chat. They wanted to know where Dale was. They did not realize that Drew Carey was the new host of the Download.
Is that what I look like?
I guess that's what they said.
My
Yeah.
goodness. Well, that's a shame.
You got to keep it going. What's wrong with Drew Carey?
The guy's funny. If I had his sense of humor, then I'd be okay.
Right.
With that. But, I don't know. Drew Carey.
Gotta love him.
I guess the glasses.
Yeah,
and the no
I can
hat.
see.
I've always got the hat. I forgot the hat. I got in the car today. I'm driving out of school, and I look in the mirror. I'm like, well, damn it.
Yeah, you feeling all right?
I know, right? I usually wear a hat, which I like to wear a hat.
No beard.
Every day.
Yeah.
I forgot my hat today. Well, not again. Never again. I'll show you.
Yeah, you better.
Yeah. All right. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you, Xfinity, for my faster download or upload speeds. And appreciate all the great questions. I can't tell you who the guest is tomorrow. It's a secret. But you're going to be happy. So you want to tune in Wednesday. We got a lot of great stuff happening with Dirty Mo Media this week. I was on Door Bumper Clear. So listen to that. Set them boys straight. Told them everything they needed to know. And we had a lot of other great content coming out this week. Jeff Gluck, great rap on The Teardown. That's an awesome show. So you'll want to check that out as well. So everybody have a great week. We'll see you. Enjoy COTA. All right, everybody, it's time for the white flag, man. What a great show this has been. Already out this week with Dirty Mo Media is The Teardown. I mentioned Jeff Gluck with his rap. Jordan, those guys are doing great work with The Teardown every single week. You don't want to miss an episode. Action's Detrimental with Denny Hamlin. He won the race, so he gives us great feedback on his experience immediately as soon as he gets home on Sunday night. Door Bumper Clear with me and Tyler Reddick. That was a lot of fun seeing them guys. Hadn't been on there in a while. May drop in more often this year since I got a lot of time on my hands. And tomorrow, Speed Street with Connor Daly and Chase Holden. Chase is doing a great job for us this year, teaming up with Connor. That drops tomorrow. On Thursday, Dirty Mo Doe. Those guys are going to preview the COTA race with gambling becoming legal in North Carolina. A lot of conversation around Dirty Mo Doe and Steve Letarte and his boys and the gambling picks that they're trying to convince people to make, man. The pressure's on, boys, because gambling is live and legal in North Carolina. DJG Reloaded on Thursday. You never know what's going to happen with that show. They've had a lot of fun over the last couple of weeks trying to do impersonations of me, and then they got Jason Keller to call in and tell his version of some incidents that me and him got ourselves into over the years. So enjoy the new DJD Reloaded this year on Thursdays. Everybody have a great week. I'll be watching this one on the TV. Hopefully it's an exciting one in Texas. We'll see you.